put on my other screen. So I'll just stick with this. So my name is Jim Bethencourt. I'll talk about a tool I created called RefactorFirst. And I've been a software developer for about 15 years. I lead the Houston Java users group. Got a website at hdug.org that points to our Eventbrite page right now. I need to go ahead and put together a GitHub page. I've been at the company I work for about a year called Improving. But I've known the folks who've worked there for, gosh, at least 8 years. And I absolutely love it. It's a great company. We're hiring right now. If you know anyone who's looking. If you want to connect with me, I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, and GitHub, all at /Jim Bethencourt. I will, and then also Improving has talks every Wednesday and Friday. You can register, you can look for the upcoming talks at improving.com/virtual events. And our past talks are posted on YouTube at YouTube/user/improving enterprises/videos. I gave one about a year ago on Cucumber, and it's on there. Let's go ahead and do a demo. So a little bit of background. I came across a particular presentation, gosh, 4 years ago or so. Whenever my CTO at the time said to look at technical debt. And so I really dove into and did a lot of Google searching and found this gem of a paper or this gem of a presentation. And the one that really grabbed me was how to find the technical debt that is really worth fixing, basically. So all technical debt really has a cost associated with it, whether we leave it there or whether we fix it or not. And so the real question is, where can we spend our time the best? Where can we put so that we make the most effective use of our time? And because frankly, some things are like hot burning coals, and some things are just not worth fixing. So one approach is to identify God classes that are in your system, in your code base, and then rank them. Not just how bad they are, but also how much of an impediment they are to current development. So is everyone familiar with God classes? Is anyone not familiar with God classes? So in case you're not, a God class conforms to three different metrics. And so one is that access to foreign data has a greater value than 5. So in other words, it tries to talk to more than 5 classes. It has weighted method count of more than 46. In other words, it has 46 or more than 46 non-trivial methods. So these are not getter setter methods. And then also it has very low class cohesion. So in other words, if the methods in it are not really interacting with one another, then it has a low class cohesion. So all of these combined make up a God class. This comes from a book that was written by Radu Marinescu and Lanza, I forget, I think Michelle Lanza in 2004. So he identified about 12 different structural design issues, and one of them was a God class. And so that book, in case you're curious, is called Object-Oriented Design Metrics in practice, I think. What we're going to do, what the authors suggested was that to go ahead and rank the God classes according to the distance to their thresholds of how is it, how bent out of shape is it, how godly of a God class is it, and also what is the code churn. So basically here you can see that you have the different metrics here. You have weighted method class, total class cohesion, and access to foreign data. And then so they take on these values of the metrics and for the individual metrics that comprise the God class, and they rank each of these individual metrics or each of these metrics individually. So as you can see here, 47 is the lowest and 107 is the highest. And so hence this, you see the rank of 1 and 9, and then all the others fall in between them. And then say they apply the same thing with total class cohesion and access to foreign data. And then once they do that, then they take and they sum each of these ranks for that particular class. And then they come up here and then you sum the overall rank, and then you rank those ranks basically. And so then you can get a concept of how bent out of shape how godly that God class is relative to other God classes. And so as you can imagine, each of these God classes has a negative effect on software quality, such as maintainability and defects. So reason being because it's a lot of these classes are large classes and they can be difficult to maintain. So they might be difficult to figure out exactly what you need to change if somebody says, oh yeah, go update that in the large class over there. Or maybe you're working on a part of that God class and somebody else is working on part of that God class, and then you end up having to do a manual merge or some kind of a merge. And if there's a merge conflict, then you have a headache on your hands. And also, interestingly, they found that God classes, due to their size, are also more defect prone. And so to do this, they also suggested to use the change in defect likelihood estimate and rank the impact. So so the change likelihood was actually in the paper specifically. They didn't really talk about it in this presentation, but for the change likelihood, you look at the number of changes since its first commit relative to the number of changes of the entire code base since the first commit. And so that's how they calculated the change likelihood. And so again, here you can calculate the change likelihood based on that ratio. And then I didn't do a defect likelihood in RefactorFirst. It's something that is on the to-do list, but the change likelihood is a good enough starting place. And then what you end up with is a cost benefit matrix where how the God class rank is on the x-axis here, and the change proneness rank is on the y-axis. And so what you end up having, what you can do is you can identify the priority of what you should fix first up here in the left by subtracting the God class rank from the change proneness rank. So what you want to pursue is things that will up here that will have the greatest impact. So they'll be easy to fix, but they'll have a big benefit to the overall team productivity, basically. And then eventually you'll want to work your way towards this upper right, but that's for a much later day. So right now you want to focus on the items right here. So that is the origins of RefactorFirst. And so if you want to look at the GitHub repo, I've gone ahead and put instructions on how to use it. You can use it as simply as running a Maven goal right here on your project, or you can take and run it as part of a build if you'd like, as part of a plugin, and it runs. It doesn't need compiled code. So if you want to, if you've joined a new team and you haven't run a build yet, but you've clone the GitHub repo or the Git repo, you can go ahead and run it even then, if you really want to scare yourself before you start developing. But certainly it could also be really helpful if you're a manager and you want to get some insight on what you're working on or what your team is working on. Or if you're a consultant and you want to get a gauge on where maybe the bodies are buried, as it were, so that you can know where to speak to about what might be slowing the team down. For version 0.1 and 0.11, you can run it as a report, but there was a velocity vulnerability that popped up that had a CVSS score of 9.0. Even though RefactorFirst wasn't technically vulnerable to it, I realized that this would still stop it from being able to be imported into some corporations due to their CVE score requirement of less than 8.0. And so I went ahead and removed that. So to view the report, it ends up in your target directory for target site directory at the root level of your code base. And it will work on Maven multi-module projects as well as single module projects. And for multi-module projects, it will treat the entire code base as a single report. It won't, so you don't need to go and aggregate it yourself. And if you're really curious, you can also specify a show details flag that will show the actual metrics themselves. So if you are really curious, you want to see exactly how your code base might have gotten worse over time, you can do that. So again, also I should mention that RefactorFirst will work on whatever is on head of your Git repository. So if you want to go and check out tags and see and rerun it, it runs pretty quickly, and you can take and see how things have evolved, basically, which could be interesting. So let me go ahead and.
You guys hear me now?
A tiny bit, not very much, John. I'm so sorry.
I wonder why. Can you drop a link to that in the
Yes,
chat?
absolutely. I'd be delighted to. Yeah, let me
Okay,
see
thanks.
here.
I'll run it against my code base now.
Okay, great, fantastic. Sounds like fun. So let me see, how do I do that? Here we go. I think that might do it. Okay. Oh, no, that's not what I'm looking for. That's Bolt. Not what I want. Okay. So let's see here. Why chat? Okay. Chat. No, crashed. Everyone. Okay, there we go. I got it now. Okay, so there it is. Here's GitHub RefactorFirst. So let me go ahead and pull up the report. I've been using Apache Tobago as the test bed for RefactorFirst. So as you can see here, I put RefactorFirst 020 there in the plugins for the build, and then I've run it, and it's generated a RefactorFirst report that I now have right here. So I don't know if it's, can y'all see this okay? Or is it a bit too small? Okay, great. So what I did, I actually took and used Google Charts to generate a bubble chart of sorts. So right here, thankfully, the Tobago folks were generous enough to share that they had to report on their God classes. So Tobago folks, if you're listening, thank you very much. It's made a world of difference for me. So you can see here, this right here is priority 1 because it so it's got the highest priority 22, so it's got an effort of 1 and a change proneness of 23. So the priority is 22 because 23 minus 1 is 22. And the ball size is the method count. and or the circle size is the method count. And just to give you an idea of how large that particular class is. So here also is a legend. This is some great feedback provided by someone who chimed in on Twitter. And then so the x-axis again is the effort to refactor to a non-God class. So and then the y-axis is the relative churn. And then the color is the rank of what to fix first. This is just up here. You can see from -14 all the way to 22. So the greener it is, the higher priority is. So as you can see here, as you migrate towards the to the bottom right, you end up with lower and lower priority, because again, some of these things aren't worth fixing because they're not being maintained. As far as they've been implemented to do their job, and they don't need to be changed much. I guess I should say. Whereas these right here, these are the big problems that you have, but they won't necessarily. They're going to be really hard to refactor because it's going to, as you can see here, this is 231 methods, and it's got a really high change proneness. But again, to have the largest impact on your team, you're going to want to focus, at least in largest immediate impact, you're going to want to focus on these right here. So I also, excuse me, went ahead and captured a few additional interesting data points in this graph, or in this table rather. So as you can see here, the most recent commit date, so how long ago was it touched, and then also the commit count to illustrate just how frequently might it change, for example. And what else? So some ideas that I have for later on. Instead of having the color of the ball of the circles to be green to blue for the priority, I'm listing that here instead, and you can kind of get a general idea. But instead, what the code coverage is from say Jacoco or from PyTest, so that you can get an idea of from green to red just how much coverage it is, so you can assess a risk. You can put a risk assessment on it quickly, as to, if we were to undertake refactoring this code, how much do we need to cover it with tests first before we start refactoring it, basically. So that's it for the report itself. Are there any questions so far? I know I've covered quite a bit. Okay, all right. Anybody have any ideas or suggestions that you'd like to see happen?
I just put it in my Maven build. It did not break my build. So
okay, good. I'm very pleased to hear that.
I forgot I didn't have a report section, so I had to add the report.
No, you don't need a report. It's just a build plugin.
Okay, so I ran it, and you said it should be in Target.
Yeah, it'll show up in Target. Yeah, so you just put it in your build section of your application, of your sorry, not your application, but your Maven POM.
I'm not seeing a directory where it should be. I see Target, classes, generated sources, generated test sources, Maven archiver, Maven status.
Okay. Okay. So if you want, you can take and run this from the command line, and try that at the top level of your project. And it's a very, very real possibility that your code base may not have any God classes.
It won't give me a job well done. You're good.
It will actually give you a job well done if you are in the clear. So it says congratulations, you have no God classes. So yeah, it will give you an in the clear if you
I also had Eclipse open, so I'm wondering if Eclipse did a build behind my back and tracked
I don't know.
anything that got reported.
No telling.
Oh, I think the Palm didn't pick it up because it's downloading a ton of stuff now.
Okay, well, it uses PMD as the engine that identified God classes. So it may be grabbing that. That may be what you're seeing. And then also it uses JGit as well. So I can actually go through and kind of give you a quick walkthrough of the code base. So from the bottom up, it takes and identifies the change proneness. So it goes through, and then it takes and it'll take the Git repository and then take and then read it, and then it'll go through and walk the tree, as you can see here, and then it will find any God classes. This is what it uses to find the God classes. And then once it finds the God classes, then it will go and it will follow the log for that particular for those particular files to see what the how many commits that particular file has had, as it were, just to avoid the in order for it to do the least amount of work possible, basically. So then once it captures that information, then it will rank the rank those, and then it'll set the change proneness on that particular object, and then it'll sort them, and then rank them. And then for the cost benefit calculator, no, it wasn't this for the effort ranker. So this is the effort ranker is what actually runs the PMD rule for the God class. So it was quite a bit of change between 5 and 6, and so I actually one of the folks on the PMD team was kind enough to give me some suggestions on what I needed to do to get it to work for Java 11. So it'll find all the God classes here, and then it will rank them. And then so again, you have rank the weighted method classes, the access to foreign data, and the total class cohesion, and then it will compute the overall rank on all of them here. And then again, it'll set the ranks. So then the cost benefit calculator pulls these two together, and then so you can see here, it gets all the God classes, and then it runs the so as you can see here, this is really where it comes together. It'll list the contents repository at head, and then identify the God classes, and then once it gets the God classes, it will go ahead and get the ranked the change proneness rank for each of them, and then it goes ahead and it collects and basically kind of almost does a join of sorts to get the ranks, and then yeah, so and then it combines all the information here, and then it returns all the rank disharmonies for the entire code base. So this was actually called in the the graph data generator is where I'm generating the graph right now. And again, this, you can see here, is the sort of the HTML that's used to this is what ends up to generate the bubble chart for the Google chart to be generated. And then the cost benefit calculator. Yeah, so that's really about it. And then the Maven plugin here is where the report actually runs itself. So have project version. So here then gets it takes the base directory of the project, and then it makes sure that it's not that it's Git repository, and if not, tries to print a friendly message, and then also make sure that the Git repository is the project base directory, and then if there are no God classes, it prints out that that your project has the God classes. And then if there are, it goes ahead and prints everything out. So you can see here, this is a cost benefit calculator, where it actually takes in it, finds all of the God classes and ranks them. So this is the call out to the cost benefit calculator here. So not a whole lot to it. But it's been a great journey for me.
Hey, I got all this to work, and I can share a real success story here for you.
Really? Okay,
Yeah,
great.
So check this out. I found something out about my code. Can I share my screen here?
If your company will permit it, I know that some are very cautious about.
Sharing code. I work in community healthcare.
Okay, let me see if I can figure out how to stop my screen share, because I don't know how. You know how to do that? Anybody?
I think, can you make me host for a second?
I think
You're roboting a little bit, Ryan.
I think you'll have to make
Okay, stop share. Okay, here we go.
No, it's not letting me.
Okay.
Let me see if I can drop a screenshot in the chat.
Okay, sure, yeah.
So you'll need to make him host for him to present.
Okay, sure. Yeah, let's see if we can figure out how to do that.
Yeah, I can try this. Just try and transfer it to John, right?
Sure, yeah, that'll work.
Let me see if I can I'll make him host. Okay, John.
Excellent.
Ah, there it is. Let's see which screen is this one. Yeah, share screen, share.
Can barely hear you, John.
Oh no, I don't know what's wrong with my. I'll try and speak up. I don't know what's wrong with my microphone here. I haven't had problems outside of Zoom. This is the first time someone's complaining of it. Can you hear me any better now if I'm shouting a little bit?
I can hear you. We can hear you good enough. Yeah, thank you.
So I ran the report, and like I said, I just dropped it in my POM file here.
Mhm.
Yeah, here we go. So I just did like it said on the web page, and I dropped the reporting in my POM here. So I added this section.
Good.
And then I just cut and paste this section, and that's all I did to my POM, and I ran it, and that all ran, and it said that I had these God classes, and these are all part of a JSON library that I'm using. And kind of the success story is, when I'm looking at this thing, I'm being, skeptical and saying, yeah, all I got to do is ask my development team, and they'll tell me where the problems are. Like,
yeah.
Oh my God, this happened again. But to tell you the truth, this JSON thing has been giving me a pain in the neck for a long time now. And so, like I said, this is a library, and it came up and it found these God classes, right?
Yeah.
And this library code that I pulled in. But when I pulled it in, they weren't in Maven, and so I pulled in the source, and that's probably why it's showing up here. Then this is one of my classes, and that actually is kind of is a God class, because that's where I put all of my database functionality that I want to actually expose and have other classes use. So it's kind of like it is a long litany of static methods that like connect to a database, do a query, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
it has all of that in. So that one's I can live with, and same for this data access object. But it found all of these JSON objects, and it really didn't like this one, it looks like. So I went and I looked at the code, and I was like, oh yeah, you know what? The JSON stuff is problematic, and I do have problems with my JSON stuff from time to time. And huzzah, I haven't changed this code since 2002. So
Oh, wow.
I should probably switch the JSON library I'm using.
Okay, all right.
Thanks. This was valuable for me.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm really, really glad.
Yeah, this is awesome. Thanks.
Cool.
Stop
You're welcome.
sharing now and give it back
Okay.
to you.
Sure. Okay. All right. Thanks. All right.
So Jim, just
So
quick,
John, quick question. To get it to work, you actually put the reporting section as well, right? Because I tried just with the first part without the reporting and it did not work.
Yeah, you don't need to put it in your reporting section. You put it in your build section.
Yeah, I put it in my build section and I didn't get that sites directory.
Huh. Okay. Oh, it's not going to be in site. It's going to be in. Actually, yes, it is in target/site. Yeah, so it'll be in target site. Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't put it. Well, I'm gonna try what John suggested, put in the reporting section. I know you said you don't need it. And
Yeah.
obviously you wrote it, so you should know better than anybody. But it didn't build it for me. It didn't put that.
Okay. Huh. All right. Interesting. Okay. Very peculiar. All right. Well, thank you for the feedback. I really appreciate it. All right.
so quick question. Any idea when the Gradle plugin will be available?
I haven't started working on that yet at all, but Andres Almaray has been kind enough to provide sort of a starting point, and I will work on that. Another idea that Andres had was to kind of sidestep that and allow it to run from the command line instead. And so the goal there would be to have it run through SDKman. So so you can take and download it through SDKman and then run it on your code base there. And I'd use a command line library to generate a table, just like the one that's created in the report. So that way you can just see things from the command line very quickly and easily. So that might be a better option. I don't know what all is involved in writing a Gradle report just yet. I don't know. I do remember seeing a survey recently that about 25% of the Java 25% of Java developers use Gradle and the other 75% use Maven. Maybe if you use Bazel, but I haven't met one yet. So that's.
Well,
that's
that would the Gradle stuff I think is heavily used over on the Android side too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, very, very, very valid point. So yeah, I can certainly get that on the list. I'm trying to share my screen just to kind of show some of the some of the items.
Is there like a core library for it? I mean, so is the Maven thing built directly into the thing right now, or is it like a separate module? I mean, are you publishing something to like Maven Central that you could build a Gradle plugin without?
You could absolutely build a Gradle plugin, yeah. So I've decoupled things as far and wide as possible, so that it's easy to take and embed each of the different pieces into other tools if you wanted to, or take and look at things different ways. So some ideas that I have are to take and especially for the command line version, if you have multiple repositories that you're using instead of a mono repo for your microservices project, you could take and clone all of your code bases into a top level directory, and then run the RefactorFirst tool from the command line at least from within that directory, and it would go and it will search for all of the different God classes, and then aggregate across all of those directories, and then generate a report for your entire code base. So that way you can figure out where you need to identify, or you can help identify what the code is that you should refactor first across your entire set of microservices. Because right now the tooling around microservices in general is lacking from what it sounds like, and so my hope is to help with that. Another enhancement that I hope to pursue is cyclic dependencies across classes or between classes, so that because in a way they're almost worse, a bigger problem than God classes are. And the research that the researchers who developed the paper that I'm referring to did some further research and found out that that is exactly the case, that classes involved in cyclic dependencies are also they're 25% more defect prone, I think it's defect prone, change prone, I can't remember exactly, than God classes are. So that's going to be next on my list of functional features, as far as like the actual scans basically that the RefactorFirst will do. I've taken on, and a couple years ago I took on and maintained a library called Detangler, or a tool called Detangler. Right now it only works on Java 8 and on bytecode rather than source code, but I don't think that moving it to Java 11 will be too difficult, since it'll only need some additional bytecode instructions added to it, and then that can be incorporated into the RefactorFirst project as well. So I'm excited about that as well. So let's see what else. There are a few issues. Again, incorporate Jacoco output, incorporate Detangler output, incorporating bug counts into the y-axis, that also be helpful. And then moving to JUnit 5 would be nice. And then using POM check and validate POM. Those are the ones that are listed there. A few that, again, that are rattling around in my head that I need to put on here. But that is the bulk of it. I'd love your feedback if you have any ideas on how it can be improved, or any kind of issues that you find, or how it can be easier to use. My goal is to make this easy to use, easy to understand, and to help you, but stay out of your way, basically, as a developer. So,
are there any other questions? If not, thank you, Jim, for the presentation.
Oh, my pleasure.
Afterwards.
It's been a pleasure.
I did have one comment. I don't know if you guys can hear me any better. There's a book, Object-Oriented Defect Management of Software by Human Unesi, that you might be interested in based on what you've been talking about.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's fantastic.
The only reason I'm aware of it was because he was a professor of mine when I was
Okay,
here.
nice.
But it sounds right up your alley. I
Fantastic.
in the chat there.
Oh yeah, I pulled it up. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it, John. This is great.
Yeah, great
Excellent.
presentation, great tool. Like I said, I've already benefited from it.
Fantastic. I'm so delighted to hear that. Great. Oh yeah, again, if you have any books, let me know. Or not books, any ideas on how to improve it, let me know. I do have some other ideas in mind as well. But yeah, so this is, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me, Ryan. And
Thank you.
it's been great getting to know all of you.
Thanks, Jim.